Republican Message, hosted by the one, the only, Cam Lau. It is Monday, January 29th, and you are listening to the 60th episode of this podcast. President Ronald Reagan said, "A nation that cannot control its borders is not a nation." Donald Trump once again dominated in the New Hampshire primary. With every other candidate dropping out and giving him an endorsement, basically, Nikki Haley really had nothing to stand on. I think the only reason she hasn't dropped out yet is because she's trying to hold on until she reaches her home state of South Carolina. I don't think it'll matter, though. Even if she did manage a win in South Carolina, Trump will win everywhere else, including the Republican National Convention. And according to ABC, Trump is ahead of Haley by 37 points in her own home state, so I doubt she'll gain any traction, and she'll almost certainly drop out of the race at that stage. A matter of weeks, and what some thought would be a crazy Republican primary has become a basic Trump sweeping victory across the board and everywhere. Here was Trump speaking after his victory in New Hampshire, joined by Vivek and Tim Scott.
She was up and I said, wow, she's doing like a speech like she won. She didn't win, she lost. This is not your typical victory speech, but let's not have somebody take a victory when she had a very bad night.
What we see right now with her continuing in this race is the ugly underbelly of American politics, where the mega donors are trying to do one thing when we the people say another. And it's up to us, we the people, to at long last say, hell no, we the people create a government that is accountable to us, and we the people have said tonight we want, again, as we did in Iowa, Donald J. Trump.
And just a little note to Nikki, she's not going to win. She's not going to win. But if she did, she would be under investigation by those people in 15 minutes. She actually appointed you, Tim? And think of it, appointed, and you're the senator of her state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
No, that's good. But I felt I should do this because I find in life you can't let people get away with both. Okay? You can't. You just can't do that. And when I watched her in the fancy dress that probably wasn't so fancy come up, I said, what's she doing? We won.
Even Tim Scott is behind Trump, and he has more support than Haley in his own state of South Carolina. But before South Carolina, she still has to face Trump head-to-head in the Nevada caucuses, so we'll see how all this unravels over the next few weeks. As for Joe Biden, he also managed to win in New Hampshire by write-ins alone, which pretty much solidifies his victory on the Democrat side, I think. The real question is whether Biden will be the one to actually make it through the election. The man is barely alive, and at bare minimum, he's certainly brain dead. It's a big mystery who the Democrats are going to put in his place. I don't see any way that they can run Kamala Harris. She's even more unpopular than Biden. Many speculate about California Governor Gavin Newsom, but he's already committed that he's not running in 24. He says that if Biden is out, Kamala is the Democrat consensus. I don't buy it, but it's also hard to imagine him running after explicitly saying that he's not going to. There have been other rumblings about a surprise Michelle Obama candidacy, which is the scariest thing I can possibly think of. Because she would have a real shot at winning, guys. Despite Barack Obama's terrible record and how he is the sole cause of the current division in this country, the Obamas somehow still remain illogically popular among Americans. A Michelle presidency would be the worst thing this country has seen yet, not to mention the fact that we're not even sure that she's not secretly a man. It's no secret, however, that Leah Thomas is a man. After dominating women's swimming as a transgender, he's now trying to become an Olympian. If you aren't familiar, the story goes something like this. Will Thomas was a not-so-successful male collegiate swimmer at the University of Pennsylvania. One day, Will decides to transition and become Leah, so now he's fully considered to be a woman. Therefore, he was allowed by the NCAA to compete and share locker rooms with the female swimmers. Of course, he was able to beat all of them with record-breaking times in women's swimming. He went on to steal national titles from the real women who deserved them, and after lots of backlash, USA Swimming has finally put in place regulations to govern this controversial issue. They now ban transgenders from competing if they have gone through puberty as the opposite sex. This new rule prevents him from competing in something like the Olympics. Of course, that's no good, so now he's taking legal action. Even if U.S. Swimming goes for this, though, you can be sure that several other countries at the Olympics will have issues with this. Leah Thomas will not compete. There's just no way. And he shouldn't either. A woman cannot be expected to be held at the same physical standard as a man. It's preposterous. Even Serena Williams said that an average man could beat her at tennis. As migrants continue to pour over the U.S.-Mexico border, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, has installed multiple different methods for deterring migrants from crossing into his state. One of these methods was a razor wire fence, and some migrants, of course, were dumb enough to attempt climbing through the razor wire, resulting in some nasty injuries. The Biden administration thinks it's wrong for Texas to employ such barricades because these people are getting hurt now. Which is stupid, because if you try to climb through razor wire in order to break the law, I think that's your own personal fault. So Biden took Texas to court, where ultimately the Supreme Court ruled that Biden has the authority on what happens at the border. Governor Abbott refused, though, to obey the president. So now we're in this standoff. Biden has used his authority to order Border Patrol agents to remove the razor wire, and then the Border Patrol Agents Union has stepped up and refused to carry out his demands. Instead, Border Patrol is standing in solidarity with Texas and encouraging their enforcement of the border. This is the first time I've heard of a union doing anything good. The conspiracy folk out there are insisting that Texas will soon be breaking off on its own and a civil war will ensue. I'm pretty doubtful on that front. The majority of Americans recognize the border issue and think that Biden has done terrible. Even elected officials. Multiple governors from other states have spoken out in support of Governor Abbott and even offered their own state's resources to Texas to help secure the border. The House of Representatives is also in the beginning stages of impeaching Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas for his continued failures. But the border isn't the only major failure of Mayorkas and the rest of the Biden administration. Conflict in the Middle East is continuing to ramp up dramatically. The Houthis have been attacking all ships trying to pass through that region in the Gulf of Aden in an act of solidarity with their fellow terrorist organizations in Gaza who are fighting the Israelis. The Houthis are a Muslim terrorist group based in Yemen. They bit off more than they could chew, though, this week when they attacked U.S. Navy ships escorting cargo through the area. The U.S. has now started a series of airstrikes against the Houthis, and it now appears that we're at war with them. This is precisely the reason that Israel should continue to receive United States support. Without Israel, this is what all of the Middle East would become. The West is so hated there that they're willing to do anything to take us down. But as long as they can never defeat Israel, there isn't even a question of them trying to engage with the United States. At least not full on. When you start to trace all these organizations back, you always find Iran behind it. And this is because the supreme leader of Iran is also the religious leader for all of these Muslims. It would be like if the current pope was ordering churches to start waging war on the Protestants again. Their faith requires them to listen to Iran. We must prevent direct war with Iran. We have nothing to gain there. We could bomb Iran into oblivion, and the few that will survive will begin plotting a new plan for our destruction. They are relentless. The best thing for us to do is keep them weak and project America's strength to ensure the safety of the entire world. But that's all I have time for today. Were you offended by this podcast? Good. Thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate you all. Have a great week and stay